Okay. Hello, everyone. 1 second. Okay, now. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to this inspiring workshop in leadership in a post-pandemic world. I am Jorge Mestre from Universidad Europea in Valencia, Spain. I am teaching here international relations and well, I have been working in international organizations for 6 years. The Universidad Europea or European University is an innovative university providing comprehensive education in four different campuses around Spain. Today, we are introducing you the Master in International Leadership and Negotiation, a blended format degree designed in partnership with UNITAR, the United Nations Institute for Training and Research. Employers continually rank leadership and negotiation as some of the most valuable an employee can possess. The master's program in international leadership and negotiation seeks to produce professionals capable of excelling as diplomats, United Nations officials, and other international organizations, civil servants, experts, consultants, and advisors at organizations with global operations, such as NGOs, mediation organizations, consulting firms, etc. International project management at government agencies, and so on. In consequence, this master's is addressed to professionals in or aspiring to leadership positions in all sectors, international organizations, private sector, governments, non-governmental organizations who want to become visionary leaders, reinvent their professional path, and lead with meaning, share insights with peers around a personal challenge, or join our vibrant international community of practice. Through this master, you will develop essential core skills such as problem solving, interpersonal communication, empathy, persuasion and influence, dealing with difficult situations, etc. Becoming a leader who thrives in an environment of global uncertainty and rapid change need good training and the best faculty of experts and professors. Indeed, our teachers are consultants in the United Nations system. For example, they are diplomats as well, or they work in international organizations. I can tell you that with this master in international leadership and negotiation, you will develop the right mindset to come up with a vision, build trust, and inspire your teams. If you have some questions related to the master, please type your questions in the chat section, and a member of our admission department will clarify it. And now, let me give the floor to my colleague as co-director of this master, Amin Mesdua from UNITAR. Hi, Amin.
Thank you, Jorge. Thank you for your kind words, and thank you for this presentation, brief presentation of the masters. And welcome everybody to this webinar. As Jorge said, my name is Amin Mesdua from UNITAR's Division for Multilateral Diplomacy. I've been working here at UNITAR for the past 6 years, and it's a real pleasure for me to be here with you in my capacity as a co-director of this masters alongside Jorge. Before I hand over my floor to my colleague and my main speaker for this evening, Jérôme, I'd like to say a few brief words about UNITAR, about the division, and about the master's course as a whole. UNITAR is the training arm of the United Nations. Each year, UNITAR designs and conducts approximately 700 different training events worldwide for more than 130,000 beneficiaries. We're talking about 20,000 event days of training per year across all the various divisions and sectors of UNITAR. as a division, my division, the division for multilateral diplomacy, we're no strangers really to this kind of partnership. We offer 11 different master's programs and related qualifications and certifications in partnership with esteemed universities around the world, of course, such as the UEV, and with UNITAR as a whole offering approximately 20. And we're so excited for this master's in particular, as it represents the culmination, the sum of our experiences over the past few years, really. Jorge mentioned the two areas, negotiation and leadership, and I'd like to sort of present how those are very much linked to our work, our daily work, and how we're very excited for them to be the key factors for this master's. So firstly, when it comes to negotiation, as you can imagine, for the Division of Multilateral Diplomacy, this is almost our lifeblood. This is something we're dealing with on a daily basis. It's our most delivered thematic area, both in terms of quantity of training, but also as a constellation of activities around it. For example, we host the World Negotiation Day on a yearly basis, with the last one having taken place in March of this year. We have a podcast series based solely on negotiation, which is available now. Maybe some of you have listened to it. And as Jorge mentioned, the expert pool we have, the consultants, the various ambassadors who would be teaching in this master's program have really experienced international negotiation at the very highest levels possible. When it comes to leadership, this is also a thematic area we are constantly engaging with. It's a cross-cutting issue in all of our professional lives, and I'm sure in your experiences as well. But it is also of great pertinence to the United Nations and to the UN when it comes to the attainment of the United Nations Agenda 2030. It is also a thematic area that has only grown in importance with regards to what we have discussed or what we will be discussing today, which is the post-COVID-19 situation. I think most of us are really able to measure the impact of effective or ineffective leadership on our day-to-day lives, and this at all levels, whether it be international, national, local, organizational, and maybe even at times in our own personal lives and private circles. So we're very excited to be at the forefront of this question, which professionally, personally, is always in style. And thirdly, we're very, very excited for this master's because it is a blended course. In that sense, the master's is also a culmination of our tremendous efforts during the COVID-19 situation to move really into the online sphere of learning. We were very proud of our efforts at UNITAR to be able to shift our activities fully online within a few months during the pandemic. There was no discernible loss of quality, and we adapted to the very latest tools and training methodologies available to us. Finally, all of our experts as well have now received training on delivering training and teaching online, so you can be confident that you will be receiving a very high standard of education online. So these were my few words on UNITAR, on my division and the masters as a whole. And I'd like to hand over, I know Mr. Jérôme Lost, our expert, our senior consultant, has had some technical issues. I see he's now been able to rejoin us as Jérôme Lost too. I'm unsure if he's able to communicate, as I know he had an audio issue. Jérôme, are you with us? Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm all fine, and if you can hear me, we are good.
Okay, good. So now that I've had that confirmation, let me just briefly give a short few words on yourself, Mr. Jérôme. Jérôme is our senior consultant at UNITAR, and he will also be the expert teaching the module in the Master of the Processes of Decision Making. Jérôme has over 20 years of experience in teaching, coaching, and mentoring at the very highest level for both the public and the private sector, and has taught with us for, I believe, over a decade, if I'm not incorrect, Jérôme. He's the founder of his own company, the November Company, which is a consultancy in the domain of training. And he's taught in over 30 countries for over 120 organizations and institutes. It's really a pleasure for us to welcome you here, Jérôme. Thank you for being with us, and please do feel free to compliment my very modest presentation of yourself. Thank you, Jérôme.
Thank you very much, Amin. Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure. And I think that this program is really coming, at the right time, and it's really on spot given the year 2020 we've been through, and this post-COVID, let's say, new leadership trends is really taking over now. I can observe this firsthand working with different organizations, private or public. And I would like to share with you in a few minutes what are my observations based on what I'm doing with my different clients based in different countries, private or public, and also based on the discussion that I'm having in different think tanks and different other experts with whom I'm working in network. Basically, the COVID-19 pandemic has radically changed the business landscape. Many companies experience anywhere from 20 to 60% loss in their revenue in 2020, and millions of people temporarily or permanently lost their jobs. So this pandemic has impacted every industry in every aspect of our lives. I would say the 2020 word of the year was pivot, as we all struggle to rapidly adapt. And all of this in a context of continuing anxieties surrounding health and safety, job security, education, disruption, and of course, financial pressure. It is obvious that we cannot simply ignore the emotional fallout. So now a real change is required in the way we lead. And for a long time, our idea of strong leadership has been shaped, by strict, let's say, delegation and direction, where managers lead the way and employees follow out of duty. As we continue still today in 2021, to struggle with the disruptions to our businesses and personal lives, this perception has evolved, and managers who remain effective have noticed a shift in what new leadership requires. So we need to have a look again at the way we lead and redefine strength itself. COVID-19 has also imposed a new template we should be following when recruiting our managers and team leaders. And now, of course, a conclusion is already clear to all of us. Those with highly developed soft skills will be the ones who take our organizations into the future. So the post-COVID-19 workplace will not look the same in every country or industry, but for many managers, the pandemic presents both challenges and opportunities. We will have to adjust our skill sets accordingly. And very often it is more reskilling or upskilling that will be part of the new picture. And many of the traits that have always been important for managers in the past, empathy, clarity, authenticity, agility, are even more crucial during this time of uncertainty today. I think you're all familiar now with this acronym VUCA, the VUCA world of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And now we're even talking about the vocability of organization. So leaders have been challenged to maintain connection and a sense of belonging with their teams, even when they cannot be, in the same room together. And this has been one big issue of all leaders, throughout the pandemic. So now, as leaders begin to plan the return to work, they have an opportunity to leverage these new insights and evolutions developed during the past several months. And they have to imagine again the workplace rather than attempting to return to business as usual. So we certainly don't want to just snap back and the way that we were before. Many organizations also have realized the benefits of allowing employees, for example, to work remotely. And as a result, some of the global workforce may never return to the office. So already in June 2020, I remember a Pricewaterhouse survey called Pricewaterhouse US Pulse survey showed that 54% of CFOs in companies indicated that their company planned to make remote work a permanent option. So that means that managers may soon have to figure out the best way to manage teams that are partially remote. And managing hybrid teams in the sense of in the workplace and also away working from home is one of these, let's say, upskilling or reskilling of leaders. So in order to keep pace with the technological advancement, and today we still don't know what, let's say, just to mention, artificial intelligence will be bringing in the next 3 years. But, in the global economy, managers may need to work with their teams to, with their team to upskill or reskill and find ways to collaborate with artificial intelligence, for example. So we need to create new rules of the road with our teams. Many teams that went remote in the spring 2020 last year may have found their groove and pace right now. And and if you've struggled to coordinate your team or you've recently onboarded new people, it may also be helpful to get everyone together and create new rules of the road as a team. Many years, spending many years with teams and leaders, working on effectiveness. What is interesting is that one of the ways a team achieves high performance is by deciding together how to work together, and doing that in a virtual environment becomes even more important. And managers should work with their teams to decide, for example, when they will have meetings, how may be run, and which communication method should be used, or for which purpose. For example, we recommend managers of virtual team meetings to make them shorter, more direct, with extremely specific agendas, because video conferences already, starts, losing its efficacy to a certain extent, the were-not effect. So these are very subtle things, but if you apply them correctly, they can do a long way in giving your workforce the ability to go, and do the things they need to do. So let's have a quick look at these soft skills that I was referring to that will determine success. The one I would like to put first, coming not only from the research, but my own experience and a perception of it, is what I would call empathetic leadership. We know that effective leaders must be in tune with the emotions of those around them as well as their own. It has always been the case. But rather than being a nice-to-have trait, emotional intelligence is now mission critical. In the pandemic, these skills, were put to the test, of course, and creating a compassionate work environment where employees feel valued as people, where they can voice their opinion and concerns freely, is essential in difficult situations, and in all times, of course. So leaders need to be transparent and realistic with their expectations, which can help us to build and maintain a culture of trust. So in fact, employee engagement is higher when leadership is continually and openly communicating with them. Another type of soft skills competencies would be what we call healthy priorities. A lot has been asked of us in the past year, and no matter the industry or job title, chances are that we felt stressed out more than a few times, which can impact our mental health and also our well-being. Just as leaders faced obstacles of their own, of course, so did their teams. And those in leadership position had to give their employees space to overcome these personal challenges. Because after all, letting stress build can be detrimental to mental health, of course, but ultimately, causing absenteeism, poor motivation, lower productivity, overlapping of work, and even increased mistakes and accidents sometimes. So while leaders should exhibit this strength, it's also important to recognize that each of us is only human. And we are not protected, from external factors that can impact us emotionally. So the lessons that management has learned this past year, such as checking in on employees' well-being and focusing on leading a project, will make for stronger companies and communities for the years to come. Another important trend is the one of flexibility. Navigating the business landscape amid a pandemic has been the ultimate crash course in flexibility, in a sense. And between dealing with paused and canceled, programs and contracts, I remember working with the Unitar and having to, reprioritize everything, or reinventing completely new services, organizational restructuring, and also the brand new technologies that has been evolving throughout the last year. So, and setting new or different priorities sometimes very quickly at the last moment, sometimes became an essential skill for effective leadership. So leaders could not wait, could not afford to wait for the next unexpected thing to happen. They had to innovate, anticipate again and again. So when the pandemic first hit, probably last year for all of us in February, March, only 12% of businesses had continuity plans, business continuity plans. So, and it left them, for those highly prepared for this. So many were left, of course, scrambling, to pick up the pieces that COVID has scattered throughout the various aspects of their business strategies. So in such a widespread and global event like this, it has impacted all facets of life, and the business leader needs to be equipped to plan for the short term, mid-term, and long term more than ever. So they must have a sharper eye for opportunities and the ability to, let's say, cope with sudden changes and readiness to adapt to meet the next challenge. Now, I still remember this mantra discussing with so many of my colleagues, participants and leaders who were training. I would like to make a special point on mindful work. My mantra for 2020 was busy doesn't equal productive. And we all have felt, the difficulty to establish boundaries when working from home, for example. So we tend to have this vision of what a hard-working manager looks like, full calendars, never taking time for themselves, putting everything else ahead of their own well-being. So, after all, what happens to their teams, departments, or business is totally on them, right? So this way of thinking can cause pressure to build and make managers worse at their job. So leaders must sort out need to do things to do, and also from, not as necessary to see results and maintain their own well-being. It's exactly like, flight security instructions in a plane. If anything happened, the first thing you need to do is to grab an oxygen mask, take care of yourself before you can help others. Many managers just did not remember this metaphoric yet symbolic move of first taking care of themselves before they can be in a position to help others. So 2020 became a year of differentiating between busy and driven, with the realization that, of course, the latter was far more important. So in this post-COVID world, this new ability to rapidly prioritize will be essential as companies and organizations face new challenges, and also having a leader who can achieve this will set apart businesses, that put mindful work over constant work, two different things. Another trend that we see taking, more and more importance is, I would call it a generous collaboration. So, planning for everything also means being open to anything. And what better way to achieve this, than by sharing ideas? So leaders are not perfect. Sometimes they need guidance too. So, and more than that, they need to be open to accepting new ideas that they may benefit, that may benefit the entire business or themselves or the team. So even if those ideas did not come directly from them, of course. So moving forward, it will be even more important to cultivate leaders who are open to any suggestions from anywhere, without the ego or the agenda, and with the health of the business and their people as their first priority. So although this past year has had many challenges, and it has also, inspired our, let's say, collective human spirit and exposed our true grit, the pandemic demanded that every business, every person can react positively to this. And with this shared experience, we have an incredible opportunity for collaboration. So to bring organizations into the future, the next leaders have to create an environment where team members feel comfortable presenting innovative ideas, being vulnerable, taking chances, making mistakes. We call this psychological safety. They have to feel safe to collaborate freely. So I wanted to share with you these most important trends that we have seen and observed in the corporate world, whether they are public organization or private organization. And I would like to share with you some final thoughts on these new trends. So just as we have recognized, we have reconsidered the way we work in response to the events of 2020, we should also reevaluate what a strong leader looks like. So this pandemic won't last forever, but what will remain is a new type of effective leadership formed through the evolution of how we are working now. So some qualities and skills some qualities and skills in our leaders are also, and will always be vital. The determination, effective communication, some degree of courage, passion, the list can go on. But this year has reshuffled the deck in terms of skills and reskilling. So transparency, seeing ourselves and each other as people first, and a willingness to adapt and an openness to listen, I would say. So our program here in this Masters, will be looking at these new characteristics, practicing those characteristics, integrating them of what a strong leadership is. And this strong leadership will actually determine who will survive and who will thrive in this new economy here. So, Amin and Jorge, I'm all ears and ready to take comments, of course, or questions, if any. Thank you very much for attending.
Yes, Mr. Loss, thank you very much for your inspiring speech. I think all the trends that you have remarked are really interesting. And of course, I would like to ask you one question about after listening your words. What about okay? No, I see that we have been receiving some questions from our students or potential students. So let's give the floor first to them. I think you can read the question from Pablo Diaz.
Yes, I can read a question which relates to what I think are new opportunities in a post-pandemic world, especially for young leaders. Well, I would say the opportunity here is for you to enter in a world that the managers you will have, because obviously it is rare to actually enter an organization, in a position of a senior leadership. You will be most probably entering as a contributing team member, then evolving to a junior leadership position until you would reach a senior level position. And what is interesting is that you're going to contribute to a new type of organization using new skills, but your own managers did not experience that. It means you're going to experience this together with your management. And the opportunity here for you will be to actually contribute by suggesting, by contributing to how we would better work together. The other opportunity I can see for you, if you consider yourself young leaders, is the fact that you were born with technology. And believe me, it makes a world of difference. I'm not going to make it a secret. I was born in 1964. I'd like to say I'm born in 1964 BC, which means before computers. And believe me, it's a leap of faith for people of my generation, who will be probably your next managers, to actually jump into this. You have an advantage, certainly a very, very significant advantage here, helping organizing the work. You may be in a position to actually coach, mentor, and train your own managers.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And in what extent, Mr. Loss, do you think that the new leadership skills will affect the international organizations?
They will, and they already are. It is so known to all of us that, for example, the simple question of working remotely and using new technologies for working remotely, virtual teams, hybrid teams, etc., was still a question. It was a pending question before COVID. COVID, as we all know, has accelerated this trend, and now it's not even a question. It is a fact. It is here. And the I would say it is already affecting the organization. I'm only taking the example of the United Nations, which is a very large organization with many agencies. I mean, Mesdoua, who is here, of course, knows here and has experienced firsthand what it means to transform an organization due to the technology, for example. But it is also changing the way we are managing, interacting among colleagues, interacting with our own managers. It has already started. I'm not sure we can describe today all the implications and consequences of these changes, but I can tell you that now the future is actually for smaller, more agile teams, quicker decision-making processes, where you have no choice but, decentralizing the activities, giving more, let's say, power of decision to the teams. And I believe that everywhere organizations were too centralized and too heavy in terms of decision-making processes, this will actually be beneficial for them. Now it goes, of course, with there's a learning curve, and it goes with a few, let's say, implications, including negative implication. It has very often reshuffled completely the line of reporting in teams. It has reshuffled completely the way we interact and at what level we are taking decisions. The other big change, I would say, is in the sense of belonging and in the morale of let's say, the teams working together. I think some of us, or some generation maybe, are more inclined to work remotely. Others, I must say, are really missing the office. And I still discuss with people who do miss the office. And I also discuss with people who are telling me I could very simply work from home the rest of my career very easily. Now, I think the future will be somewhere in between, and these two categories will have to meet and learn to work together. And I think this is where we have one of the biggest change in the future of leadership in organization, and also affecting the way they are structuring again their work and their workflow.
Thank you, Jérôme. Jérôme, I have a question for you. You mentioned a few times in your presentation upskilling and reskilling. And, in my time during the COVID pandemic at Unitar, this is on everyone's lips, reskilling. The prospective students who might be joining us, they are in a unique position. They are almost, we can call them maybe the first generation getting the skills before entering this new post-COVID context. So in that regard, what would you say are the top 2-3 skills for the new workforce?
Well, if I have to pick them on top of my mind here, but certainly converging towards the recent research and findings, one upskilling or reskilling would be definitely working on the individual and collective resilience. This became at the core of everything we're doing today. Again, we can't underestimate the emotional let's say, cost of what we've been through today. And we know that we are still paying the consequences. It has probably manifested in very different ways. Some people sort of, suppress that and deny it is affecting them psychologically, morally, or intellectually. And some others are really feeling the effect of it. I think the ability to manage ourselves, for those who are more inclined to work from home, the ability to manage yourself without the presence of colleagues at the office who will give you a pat in the back or who will suggest we go take some coffee, or having a spontaneous talk with your boss in the corridors or at the cafeteria. All of this needs to be replaced by an ability or an hygiene of life, an ability to actually manage our well-being and our resilience. This also has to be achieved collectively as well. This will be key. People who can both work from the office or from home without suffering from the pros and cons of both configurations. Another one I would say is the ability to really transform. I mean, a perfect plan now is not likely to be the best possible option. We need to be able to really start things very quickly, small iteration and incremental improvement. This has existed before COVID. But the ability to immediately create new rules, adopt them and change them as quickly as we have created them, an ability to really move quickly. I don't think we should be talking about change management anymore. It is more cultivating, let's say, or embracing a culture of movement. So we are now in a culture of movement. It's not change management, because change management assumes that we are moving from one stable or even static state to another stable and static state, which may last more or less longer. But the culture of movement means that there won't be, or not much, the stable and static, let's say, moment in time in the organizations. So if I would have to add a third one, since you asked 2 or 3, the third one would be really, and always going into the same direction and converging along the skills of innovation, being innovative. And what is interesting here is that for the first time, it won't be just the duty of the staff or the duty of the manager and leaders. It has to be a shared duty, a shared mission and responsibility to really, innovate, be ahead of the changes, being constantly in movement, so we are never being taken by surprise. So yes, these 3 skills to me appear to be what leaders and managers today in organization at the highest level. I was recently talking with the executive committee of the École Hôtelière de Lausanne, which is the #1 school in the world for hospitality, and they are really now fostering innovation, resilience building, on a very high level. So this is what I'm observing, and this is what I would recommend to really develop.
Yes, really interesting. Well, there is another question, but it is related to the master from Pablo. Pablo asked to us about the blended format. Could you please give me some more details on the blended part of the master's program? Yes, Pablo. Well, our colleague from the admission department could explain you more information. But in any case, I don't know if Tamara, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Please,
you
have the floor.
Yeah, I was just sending you through the chat our contact. So in any case that anybody needs some further information about the admission process, we are here to help you out. I'm gonna write our email, so you can text us at any time, and we will send you all information, calendar, prices. And it's important for you to know that this month we have a very good discount for early bird enrollment. So please send us a text, and we will be in contact very soon with you, and send all the information and put in contact with also the directors from Master. Thank you, Amin and Jerome, for your intervention. They all have been very, very interesting for us, and I'm sure this Master is gonna be a great success.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Tamara. Pablo, in any case, the blended format of the master, it is because it's an online master, except from a face-to-face week in Valencia, Spain, at the end of the calendar. I mean, it means around June. Okay. And about the question from Mamen Albert related to the if this master is more oriented to a business environment or big organizations, well, like United Nations or European Union, so etc. Well, I mean, I think you agree with me. I think it is addressed to those who want to lead organizations. Of course, they could be private organizations or could be non-profit governmental organizations.
Yes, definitely, Jorge. I agree with you. I would add to that the course is really, the way we designed it is really focused on the skills rather than, I would say, the organization in which you are working. It's really designed to be flexible you know, it's general but applicable everywhere, I would say, these skills. So whether business, whether big organizations, and I think Jerome can add to us, there are certain skills that are transferable and applicable to both, and this is why oftentimes you see this overlap with leaders going from, you know, the UN to the business sector, from the private sector to the EU, and so on and so forth. So I would say for both, definitely, at least from my side.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, yes. I do confirm that that the approach to post-pandemic leadership trends applies to both environments, even though they have their specificities. I know the specificities, of course, very well, working with both public and private sector myself in many countries for more than 25 years now. I would just emphasize on the fact that this COVID or this post-pandemic situation somehow has been an opportunity for the public and the private sector to converge on many aspects related to leadership and what strong and good leadership is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, I think, well, I see Tamara has included her email address, well, to raise any questions related to the master and the enrollment process, well, the content of the masters and so on. So I think, I mean, if our attendees haven't any more questions, we could, well, finish here.
Yes, I think that would be a good idea. I mean, we'll have, of course, a minute or two left for any final questions. But in any case, you know, myself, Tamara, and Jorge are all available to provide more details should you need them, whether in regards to the course or, you know, maybe even some questions that might come later that you have for Jerome on the topic of leadership in a post-COVID context. We thank you for your attendance. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to you joining us in October for the start of this very, very exciting Masters. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Thank you, Amin. Thank you, Mr. Loss, and thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And we keep in touch, and we are here to answer all your questions or clarify your doubts. Thank you very much, and see you soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.